guys doing? This is Chris with Retro Crypt. So I'm gonna be doing a Army of Darkness review, celebration, synopsis, anniversary edition. So since today Army of Darkness will be 31 years old, so apparently it came out in February 19th, 1992, or I'm sorry, 93. So that would make it 30 years old. So, well, it came out February 19th, 1993. Because I really, let me double check. So, in my notes I put, so 92. Well, October, okay, so I messed up. 92, October 9th, 1992 at the Sitges, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Sitges Film Festival in Spain. But in the United States, it came out February 19th, 1993. So technically, schmechnically 92, but in the United States in 93. So it's been 30 years since this movie came out, which is amazing to me how much time passed. So, as we know, well, as some of us know, Army of Darkness is a horror comedy movie starring Bruce Campbell, directed by Sam Raimi. I don't do too many movies. I want to do more movies, so I'm getting still getting comfortable with the concept of directly facing the camera and talking a lot more because I usually just play games. I'm kind of like turned to the side and everything. So yeah, it's a horror comedy, and the Evil Dead series, Evil Dead 1 and 2 came before it. Evil Dead 2 is kind of like a remake slash reboot of Evil Dead 1. So there's some elements to that as well in Army of Darkness. There's like little bits and pieces that are switched and changed around. I mean, there's really not a lot from Evil Dead 2 that has much to do with Army of Darkness, except for, well, I'll get into it. Let me set it up first. I don't really care about Rotten Tomatoes because that's kind of like the lazy, what does it say on Rotten Tomatoes? But just for context, Rotten Tomatoes gave it a 75. I probably would say it's a little higher than that, but I mean, I liked Evil Dead 2 the most out of the series. I didn't see the remake. I refute. Not that I don't really care. Like, I'm not like vehemently against the remake, but I just don't care. But anyway, long story short, 2 is my favorite. So it's directed by Sam Raimi, written by him and his brother Ivan. Production company, the De Laurentiis, which is, it's kind of like Canon Films. It's, kind of the mark of excellence of the, slightly off-brand movies. So just for context, and there's a lot of them, but I just listed the ones that I've watched and I actually care about. So De Laurentiis films, sometimes they come back, starring Tim Matheson and Robert Russler. Tim Matheson was in Animal House. Robert Russler was in a lot of movies, Weird Science, Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2. So other movies, Manhunter, so the original Hannibal Lecter, who was played by Brian Cox. I still haven't watched that. I really, really want to see it. It's definitely been on my to-watch list for a very long time. Maximum Overdrive, which as a kid I loved this movie, and I still do. Emilio Estevez and the voice of Lisa Simpson, Jurgen Lee Smith starring. Silver Bullet, Corey Haim, the good Corey, and Gary Sinise. I forgot the guy's name that plays the werewolf, but I believe he was the one of the antagonists in People Under the Stairs. So I got to go back and watch that one. It's like it's a werewolf movie with you know, it's a little hokey today, but I like that. I would rather watch hokey practical effects than an entire 30-minute CGI bonanza like in um, like the Avengers. I mean, if that's your thing, great, but I'm not really a big fan of it. So, new Army of Darkness edition. No, no. I'm just, reviewing the movie. I'm recording this for YouTube as well as streaming on Twitch. Just trying to increase my audience a little bit. But if I don't see anybody's comments, I'm not being a dickhead. I'm just kind of reading off my little prep sheet that I made while I was watching the movie. So going back, De Laurentiis films, Cat's Eye. I watched that a lot when I was a kid. I really don't remember much of it, except for the little gremlin thing that comes out of the wall. So if you want to see anything about the movie Cat's Eye, just YouTube gremlin ending scene. Firestarter, another movie I watched a lot as a kid, both starring Drew Barrymore. Both Conan movies, so two classic Arnold films, Halloween 3. Flash Gordon, and finally the one I put on my list of movies that I actually care about from De Laurentiis films is Death Wish. So a freaking great movie. Charles Bronson. It's a gritty 70s movie. It stars a young Jeff Goldblum. So starting off the movie, I wasn't sure if I should do a watch along or just watch the movie and take notes and then do a review later. It was kind of going to be impossible for me to do the former because I was watching my daughter today, and it's hard to do anything when you have a kid. So I just basically watched the movie and she was kind of like in and out of the room, and I just took notes and paused it a lot to go play with her and feed her and spend time with her. So that stuff. So we start the movie off with Ash doing a voiceover at S-Mart. So he's been captured and enslaved by Arthur's forces. So this differs. Again, it's the same between Evil Dead 1 and 2. So it's pretty much Evil Dead 2 is a remake / reboot of Evil Dead 1, but they changed certain key elements. So at the ending of Evil Dead 2, we had Ash going back to 1300 AD, and they're all kind of like chanting for him right off the bat. They think he's like, a gift from God or whatever. But in this one, they're very apprehensive, and they take him prisoner right away. So he's being marched through the desert, and then we get a flashback of Ash working at S-Mart, and then he and his girlfriend driving out to the cabin. So his girlfriend in this film looks nothing like his girlfriend in the previous movie. She's actually in this movie played by Bridget Fonda, who's very pretty. She pulls off that short haircut really well. So they drive out to the cabin. He's given this voiceover about finding the Necronomicon in the cabin. The Book of the Dead, which is bound in human flesh and inked in blood. It contains funerary incantations and demon resurrection passages. So, I can't remember. I think in the first Evil Dead, they read it, and then in the second movie, he plays a tape recording of it. I think, if I'm remembering correctly, but they don't really get into that in Army of Darkness. They just, something in the woods that is unleashed by the Necronomicon. There's a lot of cool stop motion effects, which is rarely seen anymore. I'm talking about when they're talking about when they're going over the Necronomicon, the pages are flipping. It's like stop motion animation. It's a lot more creepy than and effective than CGI, especially for a horror movie. So he unwittingly releases something evil into the woods that possesses his hand, in which he has to chainsaw it off. So, funny side story: when I was a really little kid, this movie came on in the middle of the night. I woke up, and I don't know, somebody was watching it in my family, and they fell asleep, and I woke up in the middle of the night, went in the living room, and this movie was playing on the TV, and it was at the point where Bruce Campbell is chasing his hand around, and it gives him the finger and everything. So I don't know. It's funny because I worked at Blockbuster Video for a couple of years in my early 20s, and everybody was like, "You gotta watch Evil Dead, Evil Dead." So I watched the first one, then I watched the second one, and I was like, "Holy crap, that's the movie that I saw when I was a little kid." So again, funny side story, but moving right along. So these scenes were reshot. I mean, they look better, but camera wise, there's a bigger budget. But again, I like the gritty graininess of the original films. So the opening credits, it's kind of ghostly looking. The words are kind of look like fluffy little ghost things, kind of reminiscent of the Frighteners. I would compare it to, but the Frighteners came out in '96, so it's not like they copied it or anything. So Ash and his car get dropped into the middle of 13 AD, and Lord Arthur and his people are ready to, run him through, do him in. They were more receptive to him at the end of Evil Dead 2. Here it's the complete opposite, and they march into the pit. The pit where they're holding some type of evil creatures. I guess they throw people they don't like in there. So Lord Arthur tells Sheila that her brother was killed in battle by Duke Henry's men. Ash's sense of humor is really good. He tells Duke Henry that they're being marched together to the pit. He tells Duke Henry he doesn't lead but two things: Jack and shit, and Jack left town. So, yes. And Bruce Campbell's delivery is fantastic. Lord Henry's kind of a dick. I mean, I guess he got to be a dick in these times. Somebody was trying to escape, and he shoots him with a crossbow. So they're getting ready to throw Ash in the pit, but they have a first sacrificial lamb, little skinny, sniveling guy. They throw him in there, blood spews up like a fountain, kind of like Johnny Depp's bed in Nightmare on Elm Street. So, I'm sorry, the guy trying to escape happens after that. Ash is next. He tries begging his way out of it, but he gets thrown in the pit. There's water, there's bones, all kinds of creepy shit. So there's awesome practical effects here. There's a witch-like creature. The creature effects and the makeup and everything are really awesome. Arthur gets kind of pissed that Ash is winning the battle and calls for the spikes, wall of spikes to close in and squash him. So he's got an uphill battle here. The deck's kind of stacked against Ash. So somebody throws Ash his chainsaw, and he beheads the witch. Okay, so he got his beloved chainsaw. Another creature pops up and tries to pull Ash in, but he grabs a rope and starts, he chops the thing's hand off first. He grabs a rope, makes his way up. I'm sorry, I'm trying to find the words here, but it's hard. Again, I don't really do too many movie reviews, but you know, I'm trying to change that. So, this I thought this was funny. He tells Arthur his shoes are untied, which is weird because I wouldn't think somebody in 13 AD would know what shoes are, and then he knocks him out. Pull the old rope a dope on him. So Ash starts spazzing out on everybody and releases Duke Henry. You know, Arthur tries it with him, and then he almost gets the boomstick. Ash goes on his monologue about the shotgun. Said it costs $109.95, which is pretty crazy to me. And I looked it up because I was curious. And $109 in 1992 money is $413 adjusted for inflation. So it pretty much just kind of lays it down for everybody in the kingdom, and the monster pops back up out of the pit that we thought just got crushed, and he shoots it. The next scene is Ash getting all the ladies. He's getting himself, he's full stomach, and Arthur's kind of hating on him. So the wizard, or wise man, tells Ash that if he wants to go back, he's gonna need to get the Necronomicon. So it's nice that they're to see the continuity, to see where the Necronomicon kind of came from. Good thing for him, he landed in the exact spot where it, in the sort of the same vicinity as where the Book of the Dead would be. So then this possessed witch lady tells him he's gonna die, very much like Henrietta from Evil Dead 2. More quips from Bruce Campbell. He says, "Yo, she bitch, let's go." So there is a battle scene here. Usually I'm not really a fan of like extreme shaky cams and quick cuts, but it's not annoying here. I liked it. It worked really well. Because it's kind of like the style of the Evil Dead series. There's like a lot of quick cuts and very kind of unconventional camera angles and stuff like that. So we get to the next scene. The blacksmith is making a new arm for Ash. So it kind of get a little bit of I wouldn't call it parroting, like a parroted scene. It's kind of like in Evil Dead 2, where Ash is making his chainsaw arm, and you get it's just kind of like quick cuts of him putting parts together and zooming in on it, and then we get another groovy. So he gets a kind of like a RoboCop type hand where he could crush stuff. So these people are very industrious for the time period. They're able to make like robot hands and stuff like that. So good for Ash. He's talking to Sheila. So Sheila is at this point, potential love interest. She's one of the villagers. I almost said village people. So she says a wise man said he would come, and in true Ash form, he's just pretty much like sorry, I lost my train of thought because I'm looking at my phone. Oh yeah, he's like, I just want to get out of here. I really don't care about you or anything that the wise men are saying. But I can't blame him. He just wants to get back to his life at S-Mart. Ash is very grumpy here. He probably could have this whole kingdom in the palm of his hand, but he gets the girl anyway. He gets a couple girls in this movie. Sheila's kind of not having it, and she slaps him, and then they go and have sex. So I always thought that was funny in movies when like somebody, like the girl, slaps a guy and then they have sex. Like, I don't know if that would Maybe it happens in real life. Who knows? Anything's possible. So the next day they ride out. You know, Ash's balls are empty, so he's nice and relaxed. They're gonna go in search of the book. The wise man tells Ash the path to the cemetery is here. So this is kind of like you got to go by yourself at this point. He tells him that the secret words once he gets the Book of the Dead is Klaatu Verada Nikto. Okay. So he has to say them exactly and not forget them. So the next scene is kind of like is like Evil Dead. We have the demon entity that has been chasing him since the previous movie, chasing him down. You know, he gets thrown off the horse. He falls in a big puddle. So it chases him down to a big old windmill. And again, we're seeing a lot more Evil Dead influence here. It's banging on the door. We're getting a lot of like shaky cam type stuff. So here we get the I don't know if I would call it famous. It's famous to like movie nerds like myself. We get like a bunch of tiny little Ash people, Ash clones, I guess you could say, because Ash is looking at himself in a mirror, and he slams it down. It breaks. I mean, it was already broken, but you know, the piece that he was looking at is now shattered into a billion pieces. So his reflection basically turns into a bunch of little Ash creatures, little clones, and we get a very Looney Tunes-esque slapstick scene here. You know, they're stabbing him in the ass, and you know, he's falling and slamming his head into stuff. Yeah, so he after he hits his head, he wakes up, and kind of like in Gulliver's Travels, he's tied down, and one of the little Ash clones is jumping down his throat, essentially, so he could I don't know, it's like a symbiosis type deal where he's gonna grow inside of Ash. So Ash then drinks a bunch of hot water. And then, you know, we got a cool shot of like an eyeball popping out of his shoulder. Very cool. Then Ash starts splitting off into bad and good Ash. So again, we get more slapstick, Three Stooges type deal. You know, good Ash is like slapping and poking good Ash in the eye. Or I think it was bad Ash that poked good Ash in the eyes. Anyway, watch the movie. You could see it for yourself. So bad Ash is provoking good Ash and calling him goody two shoes, and you know, doing a little dance, just trying to get under his skin. Literally, he already got under his skin, I guess you could say. So good Ash, bad Ash. I'm the guy with the gun. Blows bad Ash's face off, and then ties him down, chops him up into a bunch of pieces, puts him in a little baggie, buries him. At this point, I mean, his head is still talking, even though it's dismembered from its body, and he's starting to sound like a pirate for some reason, which I thought was funny. So Ash continues on his quest, and then he finds the altar in which the Necronomicon is located. But there's 3 books. Nobody said anything about there being 3 books. The first one, you know, he opens it up, it sucks his face down, and he's got like a super long face. The second one bites his hand. And, you know, the last one is obviously the right book. So he starts saying the words. He gets the, what was it? It was Klaatu Verada Nikto, but I guess he forgets the last part, and he just kind of does it. Klaatu Verada, which, saying the wrong words unleashes, you know, the army of the dead essentially, and the dead start rising. More slapstick comedy ensues, which the sets here and look cool, even though it's got a bit of a, you know, for 2023 eyes, it's got a bit of a Spirit Halloween vibe going on. At this point, lightning strikes Bad Ash's grave, and he says, "I live again." So, fun fact: Bill Moseley from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2 and every Rob Zombie movie, it plays the Bad Ash here / Deadite Captain. Ash gets back to town. He realizes that he unleashed the army of the dead, essentially. I noticed at this point, and it's very distracting, Lord Arthur has a very much woke hipster haircut and bushy eyebrows. He's got the bangs and everything with the straight hair, like he could work at a coffee shop, you know. So at this point, the village is not really vibing with Ash anymore, because he's like, yeah, just get me out of here. I know I unleashed the dead, but I have the book. Send me home. And everybody's kind of like, this guy's a coward. He's kind of a douche. He tells Sheila that their boning session was pretty much just pillow talk. She thinks it was more than that. At this point, that's when the demon, it's the demon from, the flying demon from the end of Evil Dead 2 swoops in and steals Sheila. So, again, they kind of switch things around. I gotta go back and watch Evil Dead 2 and see if it's the exact same one, or it could be, because, you know, they kind of switch things around in all these movies. So anyway, it swoops down, takes Sheila. Bad Ash is commanding skeletons at the graveyard to dig up other skeletons, you know, dig up the graves of the dead to prepare to storm the castle. They pretty much, you know, there's a stop motion animation, Ray Harryhausen kind of vibe to the skeletons and everything, and it looks very, very cool. I like stuff like that. At the castle, Ash is rallying the troops. He's training them, essentially. Or he tries to rally the troops. Sheila has been... he's trying to rally the troops while we flash back again to the graveyard where Sheila has been possessed. She says the line, "I may be bad, but I feel good." And she looks like every other Evil Dead female, you know, the very witch-like. So, again, we cut back to the castle. Ash and the bald guy with the Hulk Hogan mustache. I guess he's like the blacksmith. They scrounge up whatever supplies that Ash kind of came into town with, which there's a chemistry book in the trunk of his car. So they're using his knowledge of chemistry to make grenades and such. They soup up the car. They didn't show it at this point, but anyway, spoiler, they soup up his car to be like a kind of like a death machine with spikes and a cool propeller on it. So the Deadites arrive. We get a classic castle battle scene, complete with flaming arrows and catapults. There's a lot of cool usage of miniatures here, of them using like a slat, like a board. What am I trying to? They make a bridge to get over the moat, and I just thought the miniatures looked cool in this scene, really cool in the scene. So at this point, Ash unleashes his creation, which is the car. Starts taking out Deadites left and right, and then we get evil Sheila tricks Ash into crashing because she she's making him see her true face, even though she's still possessed at this point, and he veers off the road out of the way. He cuts the wheel and flips over. So we get a lot more Looney Tunes hijinks, crazy voices, and silliness. Again, it's not a knock on the movie at all. I laugh my ass off every time I watch this movie in a good way. As all seems lost, Duke Henry and his soldiers ride up. Bad Ash is almost at the book at this point, but Ash catches up, and he's kind of like tussling with Sheila. She's trying to, they're what's that? It's called like a pincher attack. Bad Ash is in front, and she creeps up behind him, but he's able to toss her over the side. At this point, we get another fight between Good and Bad Ash. Ash burns the good Ash burns Bad Ash's face off. He turns into a skeleton. They fight a bit more until Ash is able to catapult Bad Ash into the sky, and he blows up. And at this point, Sheila's spell is broken, and she's able to go back to her true self. Arthur and Henry at this point, they link up, bury the hatchet, bygones be bygones, they're good now. So they fought together, now they're boys. We cut to the wise man telling Ash to drink. I hope my microphone is on, because that would be fucking... Oof. I've done that before. I've gotten through a whole thing and realized it wasn't recording. So, let's see. We're recording. The mic's on. Fantastic. I'm only checking because I'm at the end. I should have did that in the beginning. So anyway, wise man tells Ash to drink the potion and say the right words this time, and he'll go back. Of course, he didn't say the right words. Boom. But he does go back. So we get it cuts to Ash back at S-Mart talking to Ted Raimi, who made a cameo, of course. What's his name in Xena? Joxer. Joxer the Mighty, I think. So anyway, he's Sam Raimi's brother, so he's gonna make a cameo. Keep it in the family, of course. Ash didn't say the right words, and now there's another witch here. So he grabbed a shotgun, which for some reason has like 90 shots in it. He shoots the shit out of her, and does they do like some Cirque du Soleil, parkour shit, John Woo style, and it's very entertaining. He kisses some random chick that was listening in on a story about how he got sucked back into time when he was talking to Ted Raimi, and then they kiss. So basically, Ash is kind of like a pimp, apparently. After that, it cuts to the credits, and that's the end. So it's been a long time since I've seen this movie. My friends and I that I used to play in a band with, we used to love Evil Dead and Bruce Campbell. I never played the PS2 game, which I always wanted to, but and I had PS2. I never got around to playing that. So I don't know. I might get a cheap PS2 or something if I can't emulate it at some point, because I had PS2, I had GameCube, I had a ton of systems, which I sold all my shit off, and I should not have. I had Army of Darkness, Evil Dead 1 and 2. Anyway, not to get too distracted with that. Yeah, I would 100% recommend watching Army of Darkness today. And I can't believe it's been 30 years since it's been released. But so this was my anniversary edition of Army of Darkness. If you haven't seen it already, go and check it out, all right? So I'll check you guys out on the next video. Later.